So, Aunt Alene, tell me about John and Albertha Brown and how we got to meet them.
Well, we met them even before we bought the Centerville house.
Yeah.
Uh, your mom and dad, Vivian and John, and Dad and I rode down to Centerville to look at the place. And there was this shacky house there. And so we went in, and Mary was a baby at that time, and so we had Mary with us. Michael wasn't even born. And so we went in, it was cold, and we went in the house, and we were sitting around the wood heater, and it was, the house was just pretty shacky. And they had this wooden heater sitting in a box, frame-like thing, and they had ashes all the way around it, and they both dipped snuff, and they would spit their snuff in those ashes around the heater.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we'd never seen that before. And so then, after that, well, of course, we looked around the house, and the house itself was just a bunch of little old bitty rooms, and they had cardboard on the walls, and it was really a shack. It was just something like we'd never seen before. And so then, but we decided to buy the place. So we bought it. That was in 1965. And I guess, Chris, you were a baby then, but yeah, you weren't with us. You must have been before you were born.
I was born in June.
And this was in March.
Okay.
This was in March of 1965.
So Mom must have been big and pregnant.
She was, I guess. That's right. So anyway, we decided to buy the place, and so then what we did is told them that we were going to buy this place, and they were going to have to find, John and Albertha were going to have to find themselves a place to move to.
Because they were just renting or leasing? Or...
Yeah, they were renting. And so they bought a little land down the road, about less than a mile, I think, down the road, and built a house down there, which wasn't too much better. It didn't really look that much better after they built it than what they had moved out of. But Dad and Uncle John and some more friends of theirs, they tore the whole interior out of that place and knocked out some of those walls, and Dad had a bunch of scrap sheetrock and sheetrocked it, and so made it at least clean and livable inside. Mm. And so then, anyway, then after we, of course, we just were, that old couple was very amusing. When we went down there on the weekends afterward, well, most often they were sitting on the porch, dipping their snuff, always, and spitting, and sometimes they had a spit can there. It was like we hadn't seen before, but anyway, but they talked so funny, and it was just entertaining just to go down there and listen to them. Anyway, and they would tell us about how they went to the doctor and how they got there. I don't know, because they didn't have a car, but they had a bunch of kids, and they were raising a couple of granddaughters at that time too. And so anyway, but it was most amusing. And we had pecan trees, and we'd bring them pecans, and we'd take one sack of pecans down there usually for the both of them. Well, she said, "Oh no, that ain't gonna do. Because she said, I'm going to have to hide them because that old rat's going to get them," she said. So anyway, so from then on, we brought 2 sacks of pecans. We brought one for John and one for Albertha. And anyway, they were most amusing, and they lived there for I don't know how many years. But the last time, well, she died first. She was older than John, and she said she had 14 children. But of course, all of them were gone from home by the time we knew her. But we did get to meet 1 or 2 of them. And then, of course, we met those granddaughters that were staying there. But in the end, well, I don't know exactly what happened that she died, but she was 90 or more. And John was somewhat younger, a little bit younger. So after she died, he'd always refer to his daughters as his girls. And his girls took him to Fort Worth. There were some of them that lived in, a good portion of them lived in Fort Worth, I think. So she took him to Fort Worth. They took him to Fort Worth. And then when he was 90 years old, well, one of the sons, his name was Claude, had taken over that place and cleaned it up a little bit and made it look better. But they decided when he was 90 that they were going to have a 90th birthday party for him. So we knew they invited us, and so we went down there, and we went. Well, at that time, I don't remember your being there, Chris, but Michael and Mary were there, and they were quite young yet. And John was laying in the bed in one of the back rooms, and anyway, it was so funny. He was all dressed up. He was nice and clean and with white shirt, and he looked really nice, nicer than we'd ever seen him look. And he looked at Mary and Michael, and he says, "I'm sure glad y'all came to look at me." Anyway, it was most amusing. We had a lot of fun just listening to them when we'd go down there and visit them, and they'd be sitting on the porch with their chairs, their individual chairs, and we'd be sitting somewhere. I don't know. Maybe we're mostly standing. I don't know. But anyway, we enjoyed it.
It seemed like one time we were in the house, and it was wintertime, and it was just. They were all around that
all
wood
around
stove.
that wood stove. That's
Yeah.
true.
And
When
it seemed hot in there to me.
well, it might have been, but it's true. They had that wood stove and it seemed like it was pretty close to the beds. I don't know how it didn't kept from catching on fire, but anyway, that's true, and it was wintertime sometime because they'd be spitting their snuff in that ashes that was around that heater. Oh my gosh! And though we were going down there when Michael graduated, and she said, Miss Albertha, she said, "I want to picture him." So anyway, we still laugh about that. She right as you entered the door, the door from the porch, well, she had a bunch of black kids' pictures hanging on the wall there. And she hung Michael's picture right in the middle of it all. So we laugh about that, and we wonder what's ever happened to all that, you know. But anyway, it was most amusing, and it was we'll never forget them, you know. We still have to, and one of my favorite saying is, "I'll be John Brown."
Well, thank you, Alene, for sharing that.
Well, I hope did I cover most of it?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Well.